The Apple Watch has already been around for so long that it's become a staple in so many people's lives. But as it usually happens with most devices this year, people think that they need to change it year after year, when it actually turns out that the Apple Watch is the most timeless device Apple has ever made. So why exactly do I think that the Apple Watch is the most timeless device Apple has ever made? Well, honestly, if you just take a look at the main 4 reasons why people usually upgrade their devices, you can see that those same 4 reasons don't necessarily apply to Apple Watches. For example, the difference between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 16 is really big. Even somebody that isn't necessarily in tech or that knows a lot about it will tell you straight away how different everything looks and feels. But if we take a look at Apple Watches, that same thing doesn't necessarily apply. To the naked eye, the only things that really change on an Apple Watch year after year are the screen and bezel size. Everything else is usually internal, and even at that, the changes that we get year after year are so incremental they're barely noticeable. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Apple Watch's core features really don't change. You're still able to tell time, track steps, change songs, reach out to people, receive notifications, and pretty much everything that has to do with health and tracking fitness is all the same throughout every Apple Watch. Now, obviously, there's going to be some slight differences, but those slight differences really aren't enough to warrant buying a newer device, at least not for most people. Due to the fact that Apple Watches truly have such limited features, there's really no space for you to overpower the device. And so all the power and energy that it has to exert on a daily basis is just kind of the same every day. That's a different story though if you try to put a 4K camera that we have nowadays in the iPhone 16s into an old iPhone 11. Clearly the iPhone 11 wouldn't handle all of that, or even things like really hardcore gaming with high graphics that you can do nowadays on your iPhones. So again, since we do see that there really isn't any type of slowdown with older Apple Watches, it really begs the question whether you do need to buy a recent one. Another reason why you'd upgrade your device year after year is going to be the design. And although they don't change it drastically, it's still a design change that's noticeable. So when the newer designs do end up coming out and you see that the one that you have looks very outdated, that prompts you to go get the new one, even if your current one device or phone is still working perfectly fine. And the last reason why somebody wouldn't really want to have an old device compared to one of the newer ones, whether that be a Mac or an iPhone, is because of the updates. We all know that Apple gives out updates throughout all of their devices year after year. And that's obviously going to mean that there's going to be some older devices that simply can't handle the newer software and therefore they don't get the new updates. But the Apple Watch's features truly are so minimal, and what it does at core is done throughout all of their devices, that it really doesn't affect the Apple Watch in that big of a way. Although I'm all for buying a device that continuously gets its updates, I do think that in terms of the Apple Watches, it isn't something that's completely necessary. I have a multitude of friends that still use the Series 3, which to many of you might seem crazy since we're already on Series 10 and the Series 3 was so many years ago. And although I'll admit that the Series 3 that my friend has is currently pretty slow, it's still holding up well even nowadays, which means that if that Series 3 is still holding up today and it's just a tiny bit slow, it means that I'm sure the Series 4, 5s, and 6s are still gonna be perfect today, even if they don't get the newest updates. Changing your device year after year, I think, is honestly one of the biggest scams that Apple and every other company out there has given to us throughout so many years. Like I've said many times now and in previous videos, it really makes no sense. The changes are truly incremental year after year. And nowadays, I don't even think it makes sense to switch your Mac, iPhone, Apple Watch, AirPods, or anything else. I would definitely say to wait a few years with each device before you end up changing it. And although I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying a 5-year-old iPhone, I truly do think that with Apple Watches, it's a completely different story. I myself had the first Apple Watch Series 1, even when the Apple Watch Series 5 was out. That's a 5-year difference, and one that's very noticeable. But my Series 1 was still going strong and it still did everything that the Series 5 did. So an upgrade just simply wasn't necessary. I'm gonna leave a few affiliate links in the description of a few Apple Watches that I still think are capable of handling day-to-day tasks today. They're a little older, they're much cheaper than the newer ones, but like I said, I still think they can handle everything that your newer Apple Watches do, and they'll handle them perfectly. I'll have links to the Series 4, 5, and 6, and even the 7, even if that's already entering into newer, more modern territory. I do also have an Apple Watch buying guide, so there's gonna be a card on screen right now that you can click to take you there. And when you're there and you realize which one you wanna buy, you can come here, click the links in the description, and then get it straight away. If you liked the video or any of my previous ones, then please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so by you subscribing, it really help out a lot. And until then, I guess there's nothing else to say. So I'll see you guys in the next one.